Okay, we've got a few things to tidy up in our register form on the client side now, so let's just clean up all of these open tabs at the top. And let's head over to our register component first of all. So inside here, earlier on, we commented out the code that we need inside here. So let's remove the console.log, and what we'll do is we'll put back in our method to register the user. And what we want to do when a user registers is we will redirect them to the members page. So what we'll do is we'll need to bring in our router into this as well. So another thing to inject inside here, and we'll say private router and router. And what we'll do is we'll remove the console.log. We don't need that. And what we'll do is we'll say this.router.navigate by URL, and then we'll specify / and members. So we take them straight to the members page. And what do we need to do with the errors in this case? Because our register is a form, and whilst we do have client-side validation, we also want to take care of validation from the server side as well, just in case we had a mismatch between what we require in our form and what we require in our register form. So what we need to do, the toast error we don't need anymore, because if we do get a bad request, that's going to come back from our interceptor. But if we get a validation error and that gets passed back into this, then we need to take care of that and display that on our form. So what we'll do is we'll add another property called validation errors. And we'll set this to an array of strings because we know we're getting that back from our interceptor if there are such a thing. And then what we can do if there is an error that we get thrown back from our interceptor, because we're going to throw the error back in that case, then what we'll do is we'll set this dot validation errors to the error that we get back. And then inside our register components template, so we'll just open that up. And what we'll do inside here is we'll just head over to our test error component HTML, and let's just copy this and paste it in. It's not going to be brilliant, but we'll never should actually see this because our client-side validation is doing exactly the same as our server-side. And what we can do with this is we'll just put it in between the form elements and the buttons themselves, and we don't need the margin top of 5 here, otherwise we'll have too much padding there. And if we go back to our register component and check our register method, then we need to update this to the reactive form now. So this is going to be registerForm.value rather than this.model, and we don't need the model property in here anymore, so we can remove that. And what we also need to do is initialize these validation errors as well. Now I've noticed this, because inside our register component we're checking for the length of the array, and if we don't initialize the array, then we're going to get an error because that will then be undefined, and undefined doesn't have a length property. So inside our register component, just to recap on what we're doing, we've got validation on here, but there's nothing to prevent us submitting the form at this moment anyway. So what we can do, and if we go and click register, we'll just enter a few properties here because we'll get a weird error about the date of birth. We have to send up a date for this. And let's just click on register. So what we see, this is our server-side validation coming back and not our client side. And that's fine. We can see our server-side validation in our form, but we don't want to rely on that inside our form itself. We want our client validators to take care of this. But at least if we get some anomaly where server-side validation does take place and we haven't dealt with it on the client, then at least we're going to see the errors inside there. So let's go back and finish up cleaning up this form. We don't want the users to have the ability to submit the form if the form is invalid. So what we can do, we can go across to our register component, and for the register button, what we're going to do is we'll disable this, and we'll set this equal to ! and then registerForm.valid. So we're checking to make sure the form is not valid, and if so, then we're going to disable the button. And if we take a look at our form one more time, then what we'll find is that this register is disabled until such time as we've completed all of the different properties inside here and we have passed validation, and then the register is available. But what we also want to do is, because the ng submit will take an enter, or just pressing the enter button as well as this, what we want to do is say, inside the ng submit method, we want to say register form dot valid and double ampersand, and then the register method will only be enabled if we actually have a valid form. So if we go and attempt this and click on register, and I'll just open up the console just to make sure we've got no errors or anything funny going on. If we go into the form and try and press enter, nothing's going to happen. But if we do complete all the properties, then we will see that taking place. So let's go back and tidy up the rest of this. We don't need any of this inside here anymore. We can be confident that our form is going to work, and we'll remove the form values from the bottom there. And let's go take a look at actually registering a user using our form. There are certain things we want to watch out for here. What happens with a user's photo because we don't have one? Do we see their correct details in their user profile when we first register? Does the photo upload work when we upload our first photo? And does it update everywhere that it needs to? So lots of questions to ask here. So what I'll do is I'll just add a new user called Bruce, and known as Bruce, and we'll add the date of birth. One thing that might be annoying is the fact that we have to click into this in order to actually access the date property. And there's no brilliant solution for this that I found that's clean. This is the best of the options, is to have the user click inside there. And if they don't do that and click away, then obviously it's going to validate them, because if we click out, then this is required, and clicking in, we get them to select the date. So I'm going to select a city, say London and UK, and we'll give them a proper password, because this is going to save into our database, and click on register. So what do we see? Okay, so we see Bob and we see Bruce, and we've got welcome Bruce, all good. But what do we have in a nav bar? We've got an empty photo. So we've missed somewhere where we need to add that. And let's go and check the edit profile and edit photos. And we can see the information about Bruce, which is fine. And if we go back and check Bruce's profile in here, okay, that's kind of fine. We could do conditionals inside here and remove this, but I'm not going to do that, just in the interest of moving forward. But if you want to, you know how to add conditionals. You could display something other than this inside here. But let's take care of the navbar image first of all, and we'll head over to our nav component, HTML, and what we'll do is we'll head up to where we're displaying the user's image, and we'll just add the OR property, and then we'll add the /assets /user.png, and let's go back to the browser, and now we see the default image there, or the placeholder image, and that's fine. And let's take a look at what happens if we try and edit the user's profile and just say hello in the text and save changes, and that works fine. And let's check the edit photos, and because this is Bruce, Bruce gets a Batman photo, so we'll just click on upload, and we get the image inside there, but we've missed something. We don't get the updated profile image inside the navbar or inside the main photo. If we refresh, we should find that the main photo populates, but we've missed off the parts inside here. So we've got a bit more cleanup to do. So let's see why that functionality didn't work. And this is when we upload a photo that's the user's main photo. So let's go take a look. And we'll head over to our photo edit component for this. So we'll say photo edit components.ts. And inside here, what we want to do is check what we're doing after we've uploaded the image. So inside our onSuccess item, what we need to do after this is we need to check to see if the photo is the main photo. So what we're going to do is say if photo is main, and I didn't get IntelliSense there. So what we'll do is we'll give the photo here a type of photo. And what this should mean is that now when I access this, then I get the type safety and IntelliSense. And what we'll do if this is the user's main photo, we'll say this.user.photo URL equals photo.url, and we'll say this.member.photo URL equals photo.url. And what we'll also do is we'll access our account service and we'll say set current user, and we'll say this.user. And what this should do is update the image everywhere. So let's go take a look. And I'm just going to log out as Bruce, and I'm just going to register a new user called Peter, known as Peter, and give him a date of birth of, let's go back a few more years and pick a date, and I'll stick with London and UK, and password, and press return. And we're in Peter's profile now, so let's just edit the profile. Put some random text in, save changes, that's still good, and click on edit photos. And let's give Peter a Spider-Man image and upload. And this time we get success. We see the image displayed in all of the different areas, and if we click on matches, then we can see that Peter's now got that particular image, and we can click on photos, and everything looks good. So if we check the console, let's just make sure we don't have any issues left behind, and that looks good. And clicking around at different things, let's just make sure we haven't broken anything in our activities here, and everything looks good. And we got to the end of the section, everything looks good. Let's go and commit our changes into source control, and I'll just close those down. Let's review the changes we've made, all of the different things that have been updated in this section. That looks fine to me. So I'm going to give it a commit message and say end of section 12, and we'll stage the changes and then commits, and we'll go and push these on up to GitHub, and we'll wrap this up with a summary.